Hello, everyone, and welcome to Yapisode 11 of It's Not You, It's Me podcast. And I'm your host, DS Choi. Today, we will talk about miracles, the extraordinary. And what I mean by that? Well, I have a story to share about something I was doing for coaching. And in coaching, we talk about miracles or extraordinary events happening. The way we will describe it is things that will not happen ordinarily, right? Extraordinary. This is not an ordinary event. It is something that we met. I don't know if manifest is the word I want to use, but it is something that we create that we would not normally do. And to create it, it takes quite the courage to do so. So let's start with the story, right? Let's start with the story. I don't know if you've seen the TikTok, Instagram reels on, I call it the fishbowl activity. I don't know what it's actually called, but basically, someone has a question. They might put it on a poster board and they will put it in a public place, like a table, with the question laid out. People who are walking by can see the question and decide whether they want to answer it. And to answer it, they have a little piece of paper. They write their answers down and put it in the fishbowl. My fishbowl is immensely small. It doesn't really matter to me, but this is mine. And I had a question. We'll get to the question, but I've been putting it off because, well, one, I don't really like leaving the house unless I need to. So it is extraordinary for me to leave the house to do something on campus unless I'm meeting someone. And I decided, all right, let's go on a Friday night where hopefully people will be out and about. Let's go to a public place where there will be a lot of people and let's try to do this fishbowl activity. So I muster up the courage and I go on this Friday night. And lo and behold, in the busy place, in the place that's supposed to be busy, there's only like 20 people. And usually it's like hustling and bustling. In my head, I realized, oh my gosh, it's actually the beginning of spring break. And so I was like, I'm here. Let's do it anyway. I am here. Let's do it anyway. So I sit down at an empty table and I'm having these thoughts. I'm just like, so am I really going to do this? I feel so basically cringe. I feel so, like, I don't know if embarrassing is the right word. It's just like, I can't believe I'm doing this kind of feeling that you get. And I told myself again, I'm doing this anyway. I'm here. I'm going to do this anyway. And so I get out my fishbowl, I set it on a different table, and I have a question that I printed out on a piece of paper. It says, if there was a class on how to build a healthy relationship, what would you want to learn? And I put the little piece of paper in a way that people can see it next to a fishbowl. I put a pad of paper and some pens, not a lot of pens, next to it. And I sat at a different table and I was just reading a book while I was waiting. 30 minutes go by. I think I literally see just like two people come in and everyone else like everyone's still seated. Like no one has left. It's basically the same thing. It's been 30 minutes and the two people who came in didn't even see the table and the question. And so again, I thought to myself, all right, I had planned to stay here for about an hour and 30 minutes total. To see if anyone would engage with it. Oh, and also, I forgot. I wrote an answer to the question myself, and I put it in the bowl so that it wouldn't be empty. It would appear to seem like someone had written an answer to it to promote engagement. Now, so after the 30 minutes, I'm sitting there. I'm just like, damn it. I don't want to do nothing in hopes that someone would answer. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't want to do it and then get nothing out of it, basically. I don't want to be there, put all this effort, and come up with a I don't know, failure experience. I think I would consider it a success. The fact that I went there and I placed the fishbowl, the fact that I overcame the cringe and set it out there, the embarrassment, whatever it may be, the awkwardness, the uncomfortableness. It was already a win. That was a win already in the night. However, I guess there's also a part of me that's ambitious and greedy. And I was just like, I don't want to go home empty handed. I want people to engage with this activity or this thing that I set out to do. I don't want to come empty handed. So what do? I said, all right. Fortunately, I am not afraid of making conversation with people, strangers, just coming up to them, asking them. But I have to make a decision, right? Because these are people who have been sitting there. I mean, there's all these conversations that's coming in my mind, right? Like this conversation I'm having is like, I don't want to disturb them. I don't want to bother them. Whatever they're doing, like, sure, maybe they don't want to bother. So I said, I'll let them decide. I will ask and I will let them decide. I will not decide for them what they will or not do. So I get my fishbowl, the question, the pens, the paper, and I decide, let's make it easier. What would make it easier? And I see people, there's people who are sitting by themselves, and then there are people who are sitting with somebody else. And so I tell myself, let's go to the ones that are sitting together so that for whatever reason, I don't know, whatever reason in my head, I said that seemed to be easier. So I go up to the table, I said, hi, I'm sorry to bother you, or I'm sorry to interrupt, I'm sorry to disturb, whatever. I'm doing this fishbowl activity, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to answer this question. And so I put up the question, they read it, and they're like, so it's a pair of people, and they're like, sure. And I was like, yes, that's, again, I think it was fortunate that the first pair of people I spoke with, that they decided they were generous and said yes, we're willing to engage with me and answer this question. And because we're on a college campus, it makes sense that if we're to make a course about a relationship, it could be a potential possibility. And so they asked, what are you doing? And so I'm just like, I'm trying to do some market research in a sense about college students and how they build relationship. Our generation's different, blah, blah, blah. I'll get in a conversation. They answer the question, and I thank them. I'm like, thank you for taking the time to answer this question. I really appreciate it. Now, and I move on to another pair of people. But let's stop there for a moment and talk about the miracle that has occurred. What was going to be the ordinary in this scenario? And by the way, it was already extraordinary. The fact that I went to this public place and that I was doing this exercise despite the discomfort, already extraordinary. Something I have never done. This is not something I do. Already a miracle. Check mark. Done. So we celebrate. What would have been ordinary next? The ordinary next is with such an empty room, not a lot of people, not a lot of traffic, not a lot of foot traffic. The ordinary thing would be just wait and let people pass by. Hope that someone would engage with the fishbowl as I just wait passively, just reading a book on the side. That would have been ordinary. That is the normal, ordinary way the fishbowl activity typically works. Now, how did I make a miracle occur? I decided I will not wait passively. I will ask people. And by asking people, I create the extraordinary. The people who normally wouldn't answer this in this situation because they didn't see the fishbowl, or they maybe if they were to walk by it, they wouldn't care. But by me interacting with them, that created an opportunity, that created a miracle for people to interact with this activity, answering the question. And so again, it's a feeling that's hard to describe, but the best way I can describe it is I am so glad I decided to take a chance. I'm so glad I decided to take an opportunity to connect with people. And because I did so, I'm not saying that everyone will be rewarded, but because I interacted, I created an opportunity. Whereas if I didn't, they would not even have a chance to interact and create this possibility. So that's the first. So I guess that's the second miracle. So on to the third miracle. I go to the next table. Two women having a late dinner, and they're just talking. They're talking enthusiastically. And I interrupt them. Again, I apologize for interrupting your dinner and your conversation. I was wondering if you'd be willing to answer this question for me. I show them the question, and they said, oh my gosh, this is a godsend. Like, this is such good timing, because we were just talking about her boyfriend and the issues that's in this relationship. And people would definitely benefit from such a course where they learn how to build healthy relationships. So we got into this more conversation here again about just relationships in general, that I'm a relationship coach, that I would like to build a course, and I'm just doing some market research, doing this activity. And we eventually, I said, would you like some more support with your relationship? And we exchanged contact info because they said yes. And so I was so thankful to have an opportunity again to connect with people, that I happen to be a place to serve. I don't know how to describe it, to be in a place where I could serve and help people that were in need, especially in that moment, and be able to connect and have a conversation in a time that they felt like they really needed that support. So we had this conversation. It wasn't any coaching. It was just kind of in general, just talking, connecting. But that was a type of miracle. That was the third miracle in which it could have gone exactly like before, where someone just says, "Oh, like this is. I think this is awesome. I'll answer your question." The extraordinary, even beyond that, was the fact that this person was currently in need of relationship support. And me being a relationship coach, I was in a position in which I could offer that kind of support. That would not have happened again if I hadn't interacted with them or chosen to go up and ask people. So, where am I going on with this? The story is an example of how we can experience the extraordinary when we are willing to be courageous. To be fair, I guess I should finish the story. There's other parts of the story, but basically, there was the last group of people that I talked with, a group of four. They're also eating a late dinner, and I asked them, "I'm sorry to bother you. I have this. Would you be willing to answer this question?" They saw, and they're like, "No, thanks." And I said, "That's all right. I'm sorry to bother you again. Have a good evening." And I left. And so I'm not saying that every person you interact with is going to create a miracle, or that it's not a cause and effect. It's not I ask and they respond in a. I mean, how do you describe it? I request and they accept. That's not always the case, right? There's going to be rejection along the way. The extraordinary is the fact that you create opportunity for extraordinary to occur. Did I explain that way? Right. Let me. When we take a step outside of the ordinary, we create opportunities for miracles to occur because they normally wouldn't have happened if we did not choose to interact in that way. So by asking these people, I allowed an opportunity to, I created an opportunity for them to interact with me. Some people accepted, responded well, and some people rejected the opportunity, and that's okay. And I went home thinking, dang, like, I'm so glad that I took these steps. Despite how uncomfortable it was, I'm thankful that I've built up, I don't know if conversation skills is the right way, that when opportunity came, when I met opportunity, I was able to take it. And that's what I wish for everyone. If there's something that they want change in their life, they have to take steps that are not ordinary. How do you describe it? Especially if what you want and what you're doing does not align. If what you want and what you're doing does not align in the fact that what you're doing regularly every day does not take steps towards what you want, then it will take a miracle for that to happen. And I don't know, maybe it's weird to say coaches are miracle makers. And so maybe miracle is a very strong word. However, I would definitely say that coaches are people who allow the extraordinary to occur. And that's not because we're doing it, it's because we're facilitating and supporting people to take those steps that that normally would not. And it's also a reflection of, for me, myself as a coach, the fact that I am choosing also to overcome, I don't know, overcome is the right word, to choose to take a step beyond the ordinary. I experience fully what my clients would feel too. And the best coaches are the ones who continuously, we call it a demand for coaching, which means basically we practice basically what we preach. We learn from our experiences, and when opportunity presents itself, depending on what we want in life and the goals that we have. For me, to be a successful coach, an effective coach, to be a successful entrepreneur, as I take my steps in this coaching journey, I have to take those extraordinary steps that I normally wouldn't do in this unfamiliar path as I learn how to navigate this journey. I have to take the steps into the unknown, the unordinary, and I see the fruits of those steps, the miracles that occur. And I mean, I guess I'll end the story basically there. And as I should relate it to relationships, and as someone who's been, I don't know, I'm not an online dating expert. I've used the apps, I have my own experiences. And there is an aspect in I don't know if swipe culture is the right way to describe it. Liking, swiping, whatever it may be. It's very interesting because on at least for the side for men, typically men are the ones who send many likes and get a lot less matches depending on how attractive you are to women. And so unless you're like the top 10% of men, typically the data shows that most men will get fewer matches or fewer likes versus women on average. Women, they have to sift through all the likes. Again, depends on the dating app features, but they have to go through all the likes, and there's plenty of people that they're not interested in. Some women, especially if they're new to the dating app, often give many of the people that like them a chance, because when they're new, they're like, oh, like this person took the courage to send me a like. I will respond in kind and give them a chance. And there's a lot of horror stories that go with that. And so online dating is such a different experience. That being said, there are people who give the benefit of the doubt and they get burned. And so they start becoming jaded. They start becoming people who are a little bit colder as they interact with people on the dating app. And there are times where, and what happens for people who use the dating app for a long time, who continue to get burned, and obviously it becomes exhausting, it becomes frustrating. It becomes a time where they can expect to be ghosted. That's a very common thing that happens. For me personally, I apologize. If I didn't talk with someone, I'm so sorry that I ghosted. I didn't mean to. However, I cannot deny there's a lack of interest. I should have been more upfront / more attentive to my own emotions and my feelings to express that I was not interested. I'm sorry that rather than communicating clearly, I'm sorry that I ghosted. That is something that I did on the app, and often it was well received. Right? Obviously, they'll say, "Oh, that's all right. Thank you for reaching back out to me." And these aren't even people that I were very involved with per se. Like it's not like we got very far necessarily, but I felt that there should be good communication, or I take it upon myself to practice good communication. I use it as an opportunity to be frank and honest, and I didn't want these people to experience the continuous negative side of dating. And these experiences have made at least my experience better for myself, where I don't have to worry about ghosting. If I did, I apologize sincerely. And I try not to. And I engage with people. And if they're not interested, I let them know. It's like, hey, it's completely okay if you're not interested. I'm happy to continue the conversation. And if you're not, feel free to let me know. And again, that really depends on the context of how the conversations go. And again, even if I do that, a lot of people just ghost anyway. They don't feel comfortable saying it, or they don't feel like going out of their way. And that's okay. I would rather present the opportunity for them to do something extraordinary than not. Where am I going with this? All that is to say, if in our life we practice ways to create opportunity, and rather than closing them ourselves, we create an opportunity for people to show up, we will remember the times when people did. We will remember the times people showed up more than the times they didn't. And I mean, as an example, these are the stories that I have because I did create opportunities and the stories that I can share that occurred. And so, I mean, honestly, I don't know what more to connect this to. I want people to have good relationship experiences, and I want people to be able to express themselves in a way that's honest and genuine. Ideally, I guess I could share a little story about my girlfriend. It's so funny because I was super, I don't know if intentional is the right word, but super We didn't have a chill first date conversation when we met in person. But it's also not this is my current girlfriend, but also in the other dates that I've gone on. I've been the people that I've had the best conversations with, honestly, have been the ones that I've been very I don't know if interview like's the right way to put it. I ask a lot of good questions. People may feel like it's an interview, but it's not like anything where you have to, I don't know. I use the word peacock, right? You don't have to show your best foot forward. It's just honest. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What are your views on this, X, Y, and Z? And I've gotten the feedback from many of them that, oh, this feels like an interview. And because I ask such interesting, I don't know if interesting question is the right way to put it. I ask deep questions. I ask personal questions, obviously with the caveat that they're welcome not to answer. It's okay if they don't answer. I just like to get to know you more. And I've had a lot of good interactions with people in that way. And it's never I would definitely say it's not romantic. I would definitely say it's not the most attraction inducing. If anything, it's the most curiosity inducing. And that's what I would rather have because I'm curious about the other person, what they're like. And I hope they have the same curiosity as well. And if through our, I don't know, interviewing, as we get to know each other, if our values align, then perhaps we can take the next step. There's an interesting phenomenon that's going on also in the dating world. I don't know if it's because therapy speak. I don't know if it's such a more people are become so much more aware of their traumas and how that impacts their romantic relationships. There's a lot of I don't know if it's like always a trauma dumping session, but there is a lot of people who early on in a relationship will share a lot of things that happened in their past about like their experiences. And that is a good and bad thing. It is good because you're willing to be vulnerable. It's a bad thing because timing is very important. The stages of relationships is very important. And when you're able to bring that up in a way that people can like listen and see you versus get worried that you're crazy. I don't know if crazy is the right word to do that. Become worried of that you might like become judgmental is the easiest way to put it. Where they're judging whether you'd be a good partner or not based on your past traumas and experiences. Because there is I'm not saying that people should hide it. I think definitely people should share. So something that people most unaware of in terms of building trust. Trust is not built by one oh maybe I mean this could be a whole episode. But we have some time. Maybe I can get into it. So very simply, how do you build trust? Some people think trust is built by you deciding to trust somebody, right? It could be trusting them with a favor, trusting them with information, trusting them with it's a variety of things. But as the word building trust implies, you take steps to build levels of trust. So ideally, what you would do is you start with low hanging. I don't know if low hanging fruits is the right way to describe it. You start with things that have less consequence. You build trust a little bit at a time. You can't trust them. If I think some things that happen in a relationship is, let's say you decide to become official, exclusive boyfriend and girlfriend or something. As a result, you think that now that you have become official, you decide, all right, I can trust them with something. For example, let's say a password or the keys to your house. If it's too early in a relationship where the trust has not been established, that they have not shown up to be trustworthy, then obviously it can create issues and problems. And I think that's what I mean by building trust. You have to give them opportunity to show up. You give them a small vulnerability with less consequence if they break it. And then the very simple idea is if they cannot build trust consistently, then there's a breakdown, obviously, and that creates the conflict in which you no longer can trust them. And each couple, each relationship, you decide how that trust is built. And it's really interesting because with family, depending on the how close your family is, especially depending, I don't know how you describe it. In a lot of Asian families, at least, there's often no question about like commitment, but there's a lot of questions about execution and how people demonstrate love and trust. And a lot of people may not be trustworthy, but they might show love still. And that's a very, very complex dynamic. If there's commitment in the family, then you can trust them that they will, in one way or another, show up for you. Maybe not in the way that you want them to. There might be still be a lot of pain involved. The relationship that you choose is the one that you choose. Like that is the one. If you want it to be as dysfunctional as some families may be, that is your choice. If you want it to be different, if you want it to be better, I don't even know if better is the right word. Different is definitely easiest to say. If you want, you can create the relationship dynamic that you want. You can create the levels of trust, create the levels of how people show up in your life, and how consistently they show up. You can choose who that person is. And I would definitely say don't settle for less. But what does less mean? It really depends on what kind of values that is important to you. You could start with what kind of values you have with your friends, what kind of trust you have with your friends. Because I have definitely have friends in which I would not trust with certain things. And there's definitely friends I would trust with my life, right? So not all friends have to have that level of trust. But I would hope that there's a few in which you could share that trust with. And in the same way, just because they share that trust with you doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be good partners. Um, I mean, very simply, rooming with some of my closest friends, they're not they're not always the easiest to live with. We have different values and different things. Does that mean I lack the trust? No, it's different things. Just because we we have different values doesn't mean that people aren't trustworthy, right? Like everyone in the world is different from us, and we have to build trust with every one of them. And the depth of trust is your choice of what level you want to go to. And if you want miracles to occur, am I tying this back to miracles? If you want the extraordinary to occur, you need to give them the opportunity to show up. You can't always be afraid. And again, you take that small steps at a time. You don't give them a big thing to, if they've never had an opportunity to show up in a big way, you don't give them such a difficult task. By allowing your friends the opportunity to show up, you may see some miracles happen, especially if you're not used to doing so. I mean, I could go into a lot of topics like the same thing of like asking for help. A lot of people have become very independent because they felt like they could not depend on their parents or their family to support them in the way that they need, especially when they grew up. So a lot of people could be very independent. And I don't know if cold is the right way to describe it. Maybe they're very warm to other people, but very cold to themselves. So when they need help, they have a hard time being vulnerable and asking for help. That happens. So in a similar way, for those kinds of people, I would offer these aspects of, but it's not that simple. Obviously, it has a lot of childhood traumas growing up in a certain way that they've become that way, and becoming vulnerable is a very, very scary thing for them because it allows them to be taken advantage of. They chose to become independent because they didn't want to be taken advantage of. So there's a lot of things that go in the background in this. And again, to build trust, we take one step at a time. It's just that some people, it's a 0 or 100, the 0 trust or 100 trust, and that is not the way we want to behave. Whew. As I'm practicing talking, especially on the screen, one of the things I'm really working on, thank you if you've been watching so far and gotten to this far, as I'm yapping about nonsense, yapping about a lot of things, yapping in a very disorganized way besides the very beginning with the story. I am practicing trying to speak with less ums. I think the next one is to speak with less and so. I don't know if it's because I'm speaking by myself and speaking or like talking to myself, and whether I have all these ideas and stories connected and things I could talk about. I usually say and to a lot of things, and I connect the ideas and I say that and I say this and this story leads to that, and so that means this and that, and so I've definitely recognized it's become a habit as I'm listening to my old recordings before I upload new podcast episodes. I'm kind of getting sick of myself in terms of these fillers are definitely distracting. But I think perhaps it is also disorganized because I haven't been planning enough of the content around it. And I think that's okay for now. I will definitely take steps towards becoming more structured. One thing I'm working on again is the class. With this fishbowl activity, I'll probably do more fishbowl activities in the future. And I would like to develop a course as a funnel for people to, well, one, just to benefit people. I think the average person, no one really taught them how to do relationships. And two, I just really want people to, build good relationships. And three, perhaps it could be a funnel for coaching. And so that is what I will be working on, one step at a time. Working on this podcast. Eventually, I'll probably work on social media, the Instagram reels that I have really not been doing. Maybe I can cut up some stories and just share these stories on them as practice as well. I don't know how to edit on Instagram. I know how to edit videos on YouTube a little bit. I don't want it to be so much work. One step at a time. We take it one step at a time. For right now, we focus on the course. And with that, what else can I say to my viewers? If there's anything that you want me to talk about, again, you can always reach out to me. There's an email in the description. It's inyimpod@gmail.com. And one day, maybe I'll get a sponsor. I need to get much better at speaking, perhaps creating titles, thumbnails, getting much better at, I need to just do a lot of things. There's so much things to do, and that's okay. It feels like so many things, but there are a lot of things, and we just take it one step at a time as we continue to, it's really just, we try, we fail, we make mistakes, we take one step to make things better. We try different things. Right now, I'm working on my speaking, working on less ums, less ands, less and so's. We'll see how that goes. That kind of rhymes. I'll share about my journey continuously about coaching. This is what this is right now. Later, it'll become a lot more structured podcast. Instead of yapping, it'll be actually perhaps a lot more intentional sharing. A lot more. There's a lot more direction and all that stuff. And so, whenever things feel hard and arduous, we pick the easiest thing to do and just do that. We just take the easiest step. We don't have to make it more complicated than it needs to be. Just take an easy step. I guess a very quick story. As I say, again, I catch myself. Quick story. I had a coaching opportunity, or I was being coached, and I was being coached again about being physically fit and healthy and going to the gym. We have a local gym in this neighborhood, and I hate going to public gyms, not because there's a lot of reasons why. And that's my brain talking. There's really not a lot of reasons. But one of the main reasons is I don't know gym etiquette. I don't want to be embarrassing. I don't want to be someone who uses the space poorly when it's a shared space, because I hate when my shared space is used in an inconsiderate way. So I want to be considerate. And my first step was find the gym. Where is the gym? Go look at it, see where it is. And that's what I did. The next step is getting access to it, because my old roommate who moved out, I had never touched we get like a key fob to get access to it. And I don't know if he lost it on the move or whatever. I don't know where it is, so I got to contact him. And that's the next step, getting that key fob so I can access it. So we take the easiest step. My first step was just go to the gym. And then I realized I couldn't go inside. So the next step is find the key fob. And you will get to hear more of that adventure later. One day, maybe you get to see me in a six-pack. one of my life bucket lists to get a six-pack. We'll see how that goes. And with that, a small story. We are at over 40 minutes. Thank you again. Following on this journey, I will tell many more stories, and hopefully they're a lot more exciting, structured in the future. Really appreciate if anyone has gotten it this far. You should get a prize. You should get a prize for listening to all this yap. Thank you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.